Welcome back to another episode of Sarver's RC. Today we got the UDR back out and we are going to be swapping in a rear differential kit. So dropping the spool out of the rear, just, lock traction makes the truck tend to tip over a lot. A lot of people just say, hey, you got to adjust your driving style. That's part of having a UDR. But I want to try out this diff kit, see how it performs, and if I don't like it, you can always switch it back. So we are going to go ahead and get started on that. I'll throw a part number in the description, but it is 8576. So I'll go ahead and get the camera set up and start the install. All right, so we got the truck flipped over. I did remove one rear wheel just so I wasn't trying to adjust camera angles and everything while started. One thing I always do if I'm buying any diff or whatnot is check the fluid. So did a Google search, couldn't find what fluid ships in this aftermarket differential for this thing, but I opened it up, didn't have much fluid in there, so I went through some 100K that I had laying around and filled it up. So on this, you're going to start by removing your rear wheels. Looked up kind of the gist of what to do on this. Personally, kind of think you could probably get away without taking the whole rear axle out of the truck, but I'm going to go ahead and show you the proper method, as they say, and you can decide on your own if you want to just try pulling the drive shaft and undoing all the bolts to take the diff out. No matter what, you will have to pull the wheels to pull the axles out of the spool, so but I think you can get away with leaving the trailing arms and everything like that. Alright, so start with removing your wheels, and then you're going to remove your limiter strap from the axle. That is going to be a 2mm for those. And then you are going to remove your axles just to get these rotors out of the way so you can get to your trailing arms. So your whole axle assembly will pull out like that. And you can get to your link bars, which is a 2.5mm. So basically getting it to where you drop this whole axle out and you can work on just the axle. When possible, I do like to put bolts back where they can go. And at that point, you'll also remove your sway bar bolt. And for the sake of time, I will time lapse the other. Okay, so you will remove all 4 of your 4-link bars, kind of jump the gun on switch into the time lapse, but you will completely disconnect this rear axle. And at that point, you will go into removing the rear member bolts. I think I'm going to switch to the driver as much as I wanted to stay away from using it. Just for the sake of time. They really do have this thing set up for scale realism with as many 3rd member bolts as they have in this thing. Definitely would look like something you'd have in a real trophy truck. Okay, at that point you should be able to completely pull this thing apart. What we're trying to achieve with this upgrade is with the spool, you're getting the same amount of power transferred to both rear tires regardless of your traction level. So the diff is going to allow you to have power go to each individual tire differently based on the traction level. So it should help with just general handling as well as traction. So as you'll see, you have your spool in here, and we will be taken the two halves apart as well. Try to leave all my screws in their proper place. At this point, your assembly is going to split in half. And what we're going to be taking out is this spool, which is just a gear with no differential spider gears in there. So you're going to pull this out, set that to the side. Your diff also comes with the needed bearings, so you can pop this bearing out. You know, mine, this thing has very little runtime, so it's not like the bearing needed to be swapped, but it comes complete. So you're basically going to drop this thing in place, get your gear mesh aligned, and this would be a good time to grease this. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. These plastic axles and whatnot, or rear end housings in the UDR tend to get hot. They don't come with a lot of grease in them. Everything I've heard, they recommend greasing the crap out of them and filling the housing even. So we are going to apply a heavy amount of grease here. As you can see, I'm definitely going heavy with this. Keeps the plastic from heating up on that housing. One day maybe I'll man up and get a Vitavon rear housing, but right now we'll just try out this rear differential kit, see how that goes. Do this without getting grease everywhere. Now I'm going to throw grease in the axle housing as well. I'm actually going to do a little wipe out of it. So try to get any dust or dirt out. And so you get that as clean as you can. And I am just going to pack this thing with grease. This will help if any water or anything gets in here. And then obviously lubrication. So go ahead and call that good. Quite a bit more than it had in their factory, so hoping that helps keep everything nice and lubed up and keep it from overheating. I always love working on diffs because you get grease and diff fluid everywhere. All right, so you can now put these two halves back together. It will only go on one way, so you don't have to necessarily worry about screwing that up. Got another bearing we need to push out. Wonderful. All right, so you will assemble your two halves. Like I said, pop both the bearings out on what came out of it, stock. This kit comes with new bearings. And you will then replace these screws. Which now I've lost which side they're going to thread in on. Sorry guys, counting screws, making sure I'm not putting third member screws in this housing screw and making sure it didn't roll off somewhere else. So I like to get these always started by hand. Before going in with the driver. I just like to snug them up with the driver and then do final torque by hand. Helps with stripping anything out. Like I said, we'll go over these by hand one more time. I do like to do a cross pattern just to cinch it down as evenly as possible. All right, so there you have your completed third member. And we will go ahead and get this back into the rear end housing. I think it can only truly go in one way. So yeah, it won't drop in unless it's the right way. So good thing is you can't screw it up. So it's grease cleaned up, so I'm not working in it. All right, so you're going to get all these screws back into the housing. Again, start these by hand so you're not stripping any threads. Finish it off with the driver. Again in that cross pattern just to get it cinched down evenly. Go over it by hand. So that's pretty good. All right, so here you have it fully installed. All your gaps are sealed up, plenty of grease. So I will go ahead and time lapse putting this thing back together. so got the UDR all put back together. Center, or the rear diff seems to be functioning great, moves well, so we'll have to get this thing out and do a review on how that works. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you want to see next. Thanks.